Hi, I'm Ramon with Labyrinths, Llamas, and Herbs, and today I'm going to share some information about my herb friend Osha. Ligusticum, porteri. And Ligusticum porteri's common name is Osha. Osha root or bear root, also known as bear medicine, and in northern Mexico we call it Chuchupate. A bag of Osha from my friend wildcrafter Ramon, and I just opened this up and my friend Leo came in and he said, "Oh my goodness, what an amazing smell." And I said, "You want to help me do a video?" So he's helping me do this. So Osha's been one of my favorite herbs for years, partly because it's a Southwest herb and partly because it has these properties and this most amazing smell to it. It's native in New Mexico. It actually grows all the way from Montana all the way down into Mexico, but above 8,000 feet. I have wildcrafted this herb in Colorado, but I haven't done that here in Mexico, but I have a wildcrafter who does it for me. And he assured me he did this in a reasonable way, and we talked about saving the plants and not over harvesting. He is a very conscious wildcrafter, so I trust him. I just want to show you some of the things about Osha. The leaves, I know they look pretty sad because they're getting already dried out, but if you'll notice, they look a lot like carrot leaf, if you're familiar with what carrot looks like. Osha is in the Apiaceae family, or the carrot family, or parsley family. But really, if you're going to identify Osha, you want to make sure you're using your organoleptic skills, your nose and your mouth, and preferably in this case, especially your nose first. It's important to really know what you're doing when you're wildcrafting. Osha looks extremely similar to poison hemlock, and poison hemlock will kill you. So you don't want to just get something that looks like Osha and say, "Oh, this is great," because they actually grow in the same, their habitats overlap. So use your smeller, use your nose, and there is nothing like the smell of Osha. It's just so pungent and so potent. And then if you take a little piece and chew on it, you're going to get a tingly kind of thing in your mouth with it. You only need a little tiny piece to be chewing on it. And what I like to do when I'm teaching people about Osha and the properties, I have them chew on just a little piece and then suck their air through their teeth like that. And then you will feel your lungs opening up with just a little tiny piece of root. And the same goes if you're using Osha honey or doing some tea. It's pretty famous in the Southwest and in Native American communities. The tribes are very familiar with this herb. It is a favorite amongst Hispanics. Hispanics that I knew in New Mexico, I would ask them about how do you use Osha, and almost everyone would tell me, especially ranch people, that they would carry a root of Osha in their pocket, in their jean pocket, to keep the rattlesnakes away. I have no idea if that actually works or not, but it's certainly worth a try, I guess. I use Chuchupate for cough syrup. I like to mix it with loquat leaf. The leaf I get is actually from Texas. It grows in hill country up there. Spikenard is another one that makes a nice combination with Osha. They both grow at the high altitudes. Interestingly, people who get high altitude sickness, Osha works. There's very few things that really help with high altitude sickness, but chewing on a piece of root will help with that feeling of nausea and just that upset kind of brain fog that you get when you're not used to being at the high altitudes. So it's a high altitude remedy, and it grows in the high altitudes, which is pretty cool. This, as an expectorant and a bronchial dilator, it really works well in cough syrups, but part of the reason it works real well is it's also an antiviral and it's an antibacterial. And antibacterial properties, as we said before, it's known as bear medicine or bear root. Bears have been known to pack their wounds with Osha root. There's this very sad story of this bear up in northern New Mexico. Somebody shot the bear but didn't kill it, and so they had a wounded bear, and so all the rangers were out looking for this bear, and they finally found the bear, and he was dead by the time they found him, but he had packed Osha root into his wound, and they had found this to be not unusual. I think we need to kind of listen to what the bears know and use that. Possibly this is something that we need to think about for wound care, using maybe some as a disinfectant, maybe the tincture, or even making some powdered root and adding that to a wound powder. You'd want to use the clean. You're going to have to hard process this, and you probably want to take off this outer bark here. Use the inner. I probably won't be using this part either, but this is clean. We dry it. We would use it for making teas, making powder. I plan on making some honey paste with this and some honey. It's amazing. You chop up the pieces of Osha and make it into a Osha honey. You then, when you strain it, you have all these crystallized honeyed pieces of Osha, which is absolutely fabulous, and chewing on that will definitely help keep you healthy. My mentor, David Winston, when he goes on long plane trips, every couple of hours he chews on a piece of Osha root, and he never gets the colds and the coughs that are going on. It keeps him healthy on those long trips. So that's another way besides keeping it in your pocket. You can keep it in the side of your jaw, I guess. It's a carminative, which means it's going to be helpful for things like gas, nausea, stomach kind of issues. I mostly use mine as a cough syrup, is the way I prefer using Osha. I'll use it with wild cherry bark. But I guess my favorite way is with spikenard. I've also used it with yerba manzа, especially for things like a cough that just won't go away. Yerba manzа is really good for those lingering kind of coughs. Osha is warming, so you want to be careful. If somebody has a fever, you probably don't want to use Osha during the active fever time. It might make it worse. Another warning about Osha, you don't want to be using this if you're pregnant. It isn't a menagogue. It will get a cycle going. And I do know of one case of miscarriage. I do use this minimally with children, usually as a glycerin. I don't use the tincture. It is, in the scheme of things, one of the stronger herbs. So dosing probably 1 ml, about 20 drops. If you're using it as a simple, would be as much as I would use, and I would start lower than that and move up. I like to put things in formula. I'm a formula girl. I'm not a simples girl. I just find that herbs work together really well. This does like to work well with spikenard, and it works really nicely with yerba manzа, as I mentioned. If you're making tincture, you want to use pretty high alcohol, probably around 70%, and you can use a ratio of 1:4 or 1:5. When you're making the tincture. If you're making a tea, I like to do this with just little chopped up pieces of Osha. Use about a teaspoon to a cup, and I boil it. And in about 15 minutes or 20, you're going to see the watercolor change. And to me, that's the best way to determine that. My hands are going to smell like Osha all night tonight. That's the best way to figure out that your tea is ready, especially with Osha. I guess the other thing I would like to mention about it is that it's used as an amulet. This is considered a sacred plant in the Southwest, and it is an endangered species. That's why I wanted to make sure that my friend was harvesting this consciously. I have plans for this entire package of Osha. And it is an honor to have this plant. I haven't had Osha in my life like this for about 10 years. So I'm very, very happy to have been able to share with you a little bit about Osha. Ligusticum porteri, Apiaceae family. If you get a chance to taste Osha, try that little trick with sucking it through your teeth. If you've used Osha, please make mention of it down in the comments. This is Katia with Labyrinths, Llamas, and Herbs, where healing happens at every turn. Thank you.